Hello, my name is Andy Stiles. I am the Chief Engineer for the V903 product at Cummins. Military customers, since their vehicles last 30 plus years, we keep an open eye toward the remanufacturing business and refitting of the engine. We look at different ways that we can uprate the engine through the life of the vehicle. The purpose of the vehicle is usually dictated by the branch of the military. So your land forces, like your Army, they will have various ground type vehicles, either wheeled or tracked, that they will use. But the Marine Corps does have some vehicles that are water-based vehicles. They're land and water amphibious vehicles. And those engines are adapted for the water usage and the marine usage, mainly with stainless steel components, things like that that can withstand salt water. Different types of transmissions tend to ask for different things from the engine. Tracked vehicles, they like to have a higher speed, more of a steady state speed, and the transmission acts more or less like a hydrostatic transmission, like you might have in a garden tractor. Whereas the wheeled vehicles will rev up and shift. The transmission will shift and rev the engine up and down. So it's a little bit different duty cycle on the engine. You might have a different torque curve between the two. We do certify our engines on diesel number 2 because it's readily available. But what happens is on most of the military bases, both in the US and overseas, they use JP8 or kerosene-based fuel. We have developed different technologies that can detect the difference between those fuels and change the fueling algorithms such that we don't lose power. Diesel number 2 has lubricity characteristics, and when we have to use other fuels and they don't have lubricity added, we need to design higher wear or higher capability components to deal with that lack of lubricity in the fuels. It's not an unsurmountable challenge, but it's something that we need to be aware of. In the commercial world, we would test engines in our test cell until we think they're capable for use in the vehicle. And then when we go to the vehicle, Cummins may purchase or lease commercial vehicles to test the engines in real-world situations in vehicles. On the military side, it's quite different. We're not able to purchase or lease these military vehicles. We may get a short-term loan. Usually we have to go along with whatever vehicle program there is. So early on in the program, we may be doing a lot of engine dynamometer testing and engine-specific testing toward a specification. And it might be 2 years before we actually get into a vehicle and accumulate a lot of vehicle miles. We need to look at extreme cold and extreme heat. So the engine needs to be able to operate at minus 40 degrees F. And it also has to operate at 125 degrees Fahrenheit in the desert conditions. Some of the sand in the deserts in the Middle East are very, very fine particles, and we give guidance to our customers about what kind of filtration that they need. The use of an engine in a marine type environment requires some anti-corrosive materials such as stainless steel, and we use quite a bit of that on fuel system components and other components used in those applications. When Desert Storm came around, there was quite a bit of an effort at that point in time to get our suppliers ready for that huge increase in engine sales that we had. And it was an overnight change almost. We've learned from that, and what we found is that a lot of our suppliers may have the capability to keep up as long as we give them a little bit of lead time. And as we change suppliers through the years, we try to seek out suppliers that have extra capacity that would be able to support us if our volumes should suddenly change. Having our engine in the very initial design of the vehicle is kind of a blessing sometimes. But there are situations where we do have a chance to unseat an incumbent engine. The other engine may no longer be supported by the company. The other engine may have a company that's gone out of business. Or it's just not capable of the power output that's needed. Typically, if we go in to retrofit a vehicle that did not originally have a Cummins engine, Many of the things that we have to look at are how the engine was connected to the vehicle. So the intake air systems and the exhaust systems are usually fixed behind ballistic grills, and so they can't move very much. And those are typically large diameter piping. So we have to match up the intake and exhaust systems as best we can to the previous engine. Many times the final drives or the transmission components can't move either. So we'll have to match up the flywheel housing and the flywheel to those types of components. What we found is through the years there have been changes in transmissions and changes in architecture and control systems that we have to work around. And as we start getting around those and uprating those engines, more and more people around the world who also have these vehicles hear about it and want to do the same thing.